I'm Ken, and this is my Camaro. I've never made a YouTube video before, and I've never restored a car before, so this will be an adventure. I've always been interested in cars and building things. I wanted to learn how to do auto body work, rebuild engines, things like that. Over the years, I would look off and on to see if I could find a decent classic car project, figuring they were only going to get more expensive and harder to find over time. At one point, I picked up a 66 GTO project. For some reason, it had a Chevy steering wheel. Maybe that was foreshadowing because I ended up selling it because it just didn't speak to me. I'm sure some will say that was a mistake, but there's always been something about first-generation Camaros that resonated with me. In 2012, I ended up finding this 67 Camaro, and I picked it up for I think somewhere around $4,000. I pulled the interior and drivetrain out of it and started to clean up some of the surface rust, but it has sat in my garage pretty much untouched ever since. In 2023, my family and I moved from California to Minnesota, and with two young sons who are into all things cars and trucks, I figured it would be a great opportunity to kickstart the project. Now we'll learn a little bit more about the car itself. First generation Camaros have cowl tags riveted to the driver's side of the firewall. These contain information about basic characteristics of the build. If we take a closer look, we can decode the cowl tag on my car. The first code we'll look at is the body build date code, which is 11E. The 11 represents the 11th month, November, and the E represents the 5th week of the month. This means the build was started on the 5th week of November. Next, we have the body scheduling code, X723. This can be roughly translated to the day and sequential number the car was built, but ultimately doesn't tell us much about the car itself. The next code is the body style code. In this case, 67-12637. The 67 stands for the year, 1967. The 12 is the model code for Camaro. 6 indicates a custom interior, and 37 indicates the car is a coupe. The next code is the assembly plant code, LOS-9633. LOS indicates it was built in the Los Angeles Van Nuys Fisher Body Factory. The 9633 ties to the body style code discussed previously. It indicates it is the 9,633rd 1967 Camaro Coupe with custom interior built at the Van Nuys plant. The next code is the interior trim code, 765-Z. 765 indicates a black interior and custom front bucket seats. The Z indicates no headrests. Next is the exterior paint code, Y-Y. The Y indicates it was butternut yellow, and the second Y indicates the top was painted butternut yellow as well, meaning it was not a convertible or a vinyl top. The last code is the options code, 2ELG3L. The 67 Camaro had 5 options groups, indicated by the number, and then various options within that group, indicated by the letter. 2E means it had air conditioning, 2L indicates a 4-speed manual floor shift transmission, 2G indicates a center console, and 3L indicates a Rally Sport or RS package. The first 7 digits of the VIN number also confirm it's a 67 Chevy Camaro Coupe from the Los Angeles assembly plant. One additional piece of information we can get from the VIN is the third digit is a 4, indicating it had a V8 engine. In the end, none of this really matters since I'm not intending on making this a numbers matching restoration, but it's still pretty interesting to know. Overall, it's in pretty good shape. Not too much rust. The floorboards are more or less complete. The trunk has a couple holes here and there. For the most part, the areas that normally rust out seem to be good. Two of the main areas that do need work are the back quarter panels. So here you can see kind of along the wheel well, and then back to the back needs some work. Definitely some damage back here, some rotting out. The tail panel will need some work, and then coming over to the passenger side, this whole area is rotted out. underneath there, and there was some damage to this quarter panel as well. Other than that, there's some dings and dents here and there that will need to be obviously fixed. But overall, it's a pretty solid car. Over the years, I've kept an eye out for some other things I know I'll need, like replacement quarter panels, doors, fenders, header panels, and bumpers. I also have a 383 stroker engine that I'll need to rebuild at some point here. I have a Muncie 4-speed that also needs to be rebuilt, but I think I'll probably go with a newer 5-speed in the end. I decided to pull out the seats to get a better look at the floor. I believe the front seats are out of a second-generation Camaro. I'm planning to redo the interior in a more modern style, but I'm not entirely sure what it'll look like yet. And it's quite a ways off. So now that we have the seats out, we can see a little bit better what the interior and the floor looks like. There's definitely some dents and some rust in here, but overall it's pretty solid. And then going back to the trunk, again, overall it's pretty solid. There are a couple holes they'll need patched up, but generally speaking, there's not too much rust damage. So we'll get to working on it. Under the rear end are the stock mono leaf springs. I definitely want to upgrade the rear suspension, but I'm not sure yet if I'll just upgrade to multi-leaf or install a 4-link. I'm also debating if I should install mini tubs for wider rear wheels. Those upgrades could obviously be done down the road, but it seems like if I'm going to be cutting and welding on the car, it makes more sense to do it at the same time. I'll also need to figure out what rear end assembly I want to put in. Up front, I'll most likely leave the suspension stock for now, since that's easier to upgrade in the future. Obviously, I'll need to replace all the bushings and clean everything up. The car came with front disc brakes, which I will likely upgrade. I think the next steps from here will be to pull the front end off and remove the frame. I recently picked up an auto rotisserie, so I'll be working on getting the body mounted to that, and I can start stripping off the paint to see what I'm really working with. Thanks for joining me on this journey. As I said at the start, I've never done this before. So if I'm doing something wrong or if you have suggestions or ideas, send the comments my way.